He kōna ipurangi tēnei nā te reo irirangi o Aotearoa.
Just a quick warning, this episode touches on sensitive topics like suicide, so do take care with your listening. And if you need help, you can free call or text 1737 to speak with a trained counsellor.
There were these girls in the car park by their car drinking a Cody's, these Māori girls. They go, hey, you're their boxeroo. I go, yeah. They go, you just won a world title, I know it. Yeah. They go, have a beer with us. I went, okay, sweet as. So I sat at the airport with they just treated me so normally. It was genuine. Those moments are priceless. And I sat there and had a couple of Cody's with them, and they were just cracking up, and they weren't making a big fuss over me. They just talked to me like I was normal, and that's all I wanted. That moment of being normal. And honestly, I could have stayed there with them for quite a lot longer, but my family were like, come on, Mum, let's get home.
I went home all right, and I stayed home. It was this weird time where I didn't leave the house for like 3 weeks.
I don't know, I felt like all of a sudden my shoulders were heavy again, but I was carrying so much. I felt this sense of responsibility that all of a sudden now I'm supposed to be this role model. And I didn't like it.
Kia ora, I'm Daniella Smith, and this is Uncut Diamond Daniella. The story of how I became world boxing champion. They raised my hand, and I do remember there's this feeling of immense pride. I reached the top, then I hit rock bottom.
Oh, would these people just leave me alone? I at times use other words, but all these kind of little things that just turned into something so huge.
Fame really didn't sit well with me. In fact, I even feel stupid using the word fame. Guess it's kind of strange that I agreed to make this podcast then, when producer Dane Giroux came calling. But I do think some stories are important to be told. So, let's go back to Germany. I've just beaten Jennifer Retzky for the IBF welterweight world title.
I knew when the fight had finished I'd won. I knew, there's no way in the world they could give him the fight to her. I won that fair and square.
I've done it. Against the odds. Just my dad, George, and 2 Hungarians in my corner.
I'm doing this for Māori. I'm doing this for kaikohe. In that moment, that really drove me, and probably fought the best fight of my life.
I left Auckland in November 2010 as Daniella Smith and returned from Berlin a world champion. But still Daniella Smith.
This moment I had been looking forward to for so long. That was my purpose for so long. I'd won and didn't know what to do. I felt really lost.
My dreams had all come true, and I couldn't be more miserable. What the heck's that about, eh? I still remember that, the emotion just really floods back in. So I know that feeling, it's out of it. Wow. My body remembers it too. As soon as I said that, I'm just wishing I lost.
Who the hell says I wish I lost a world title fight? But I swear, hand on heart, I said that. I wish I lost it. Because now what was I going to do?
The immediate plans were obvious. There were a few things to do in Germany and some boxes to tick. Like they wouldn't give me the title until I tested negative for drugs.
I did get a bit scared though when I went to go and do my drug test. Not because I was worried they'd find any drugs in me, but I was like, I've heard stories about stuff like this, where they say that you failed a drug test and you didn't even, they doctored your drug test or something. So I was a little bit nervous about that.
I gave that official a hard time.
How do I know that my sample is secure and you're not going to do anything to it? The woman spoke pretty good English, but still that real stern German, like, can't take a joke kind of personality, eh? This will not happen, Daniella. I said, better not. You didn't get to watch me on the toilet for nothing. But I mean, when you're an athlete, you're just so used to so many people watching you on the toilet, looking down, checking to see that you don't have any tubes coming out of your for your urine. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is all real.
I then got onto the bus along with my dad to be driven back to the hotel in Berlin. Dad wouldn't stop talking to anyone who'd listen. Me, however, I certainly wasn't in party mode. Already I sensed that something was wrong with me. I could feel myself withdrawing.
I just sat by myself on the bus, sitting there going back. And it hits me.
Earlier that year, I'd lost my youngest brother, Alon. He'd taken his own life about 6 months previous to the fight, just when Monty was starting to train me for the championship.
It was the most horrible wave that went through my body. My brother's dead. Holy shit. And I just went, oh.
After Alon died, I just trained hard. I didn't want to have to face the saddest moment of my life. Why the hell would I want to face that? So I trained. And some people turned to drugs and alcohol. I turned to training, and I escaped. I don't know, I kept seeing him with me in Germany. And when I say seeing him, I didn't see him like there's a lawn standing there. There was these birds, and they created this formation in the sky, and I remember sitting there in my window of the hotel and I went, wow, is that you, Alon? You're doing that, eh? You're letting me know you're here. And it was little things like that I kept seeing. And that's how I felt his presence really strongly. And look, I understand sometimes the power of the mind is such a strong thing and we'll see things and want to believe it's that. But I'll be honest, I just really believed it was my brother. And going into the ring, he was there with me. Him and my nanny, we walked in together. Seconds before I'm fighting for a world title, my father says to me, do this for Alon. His presence was so strong, so I think it was only natural that after the fight and all the emotions had died down, and that happened really quickly, my first natural thing to do was to go, oh man, my brother. And it wasn't until I'd won the fight that reality just came along and slapped me in the face. Yeah. Remember, Dane, I told you that story about Alon as we passed our urupa and kaikohe?
So what was he like?
Alon was crazy as hell. Oh my gosh, he was crazy. And I always said, don't worry, bro, I will continue to tell you stories forever and a day. He was fearless. Some of the guys were showing off about having their tongue pierced and stuff. He pulls his tongue out and puts a nail through it, his tongue. He was nuts. He was absolutely nuts. But I loved that about him, and I still miss him so much. And I guess it was tough for him growing up with two older siblings that excelled in sport. I guess my dad didn't understand. I mean, my dad thought he was amazing at building and stuff, but it was something Dad wasn't good at either. So I guess it didn't achieve the same level of praise as my brother and I making New Zealand age group sports teams and stuff like that. We made the paper. Alon made an amazing table carved and designed, but that didn't make the paper. Back in 2010, it was pretty fresh. And after the fight, I'm managing all these emotions, but I'm happy because I'm going home.
At the airport, people were looking at my dad like this, and my face is looking quite distorted. obviously my defense wasn't as fantastic as what I thought it was, because I had a lot of bruises, black eye and just some bruising around my forehead, but it did look pretty bad. And so Dad was explaining to everyone that looked at us like that I had just won a world title, and I was like, oh. But he was telling them so they didn't think that he beat me up. We arrive in Hong Kong, and in Hong Kong we go up to the Cordy Lounge because Air New Zealand had allowed us the use of Cordy Lounges all the way through. They apologised that they couldn't upgrade my seats to first class. Monty did try, but I've ridden the back seat the whole time, you know. I got a message from my sister. Make sure you look respectable coming into Auckland Airport. There'll be people there for you. And straight away I'm like, I don't want anyone being there. Tell them to go home. I don't want anyone there. She's like, I can't tell. Let them go. Like, there's going to be a lot of people. We've organised people from up north that are coming down. We can't tell them, Dandy.
They expected a new world champion to stride through the gate, holding her belt high above her head.
She's like standing behind the doors that, you know, international walk out.
My daughter Talia remembers it well.
She's hiding behind there like, I'm not coming out. And I'm just like, we've kind of got all these people here. You kind of have to come out.
But I've explained to you why that I was like that, eh? Because when I left for Germany, there was no one at the airport except my family. So for me, I'm like, what, all of a sudden you want to turn up? And I was like, nah, you weren't here when I left. I only want the people that were here when I left to greet me. But I soon realised no one was going to go anywhere.
So she had to come out.
I still raised that belt, you know. I saw how proud everyone was. I was just very reluctant.
So I came out, and then as soon as I heard, was it Joe?
Yeah.
She did the kaikaranga, eh?
Yeah.
Walk out and hear the karanga. Welcome me home to New Zealand. And then the haka. It was just beautiful. And then you ran up to me, eh?
Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh, there's all these TV cameras here. And I'm crying. And so I just put my head in my hands to hide my face so no one could see me crying. They obviously all worked out that's what I was doing, but it was quite an emotional experience.
And then I did interviews with what felt like every TV station in the country.
You mean all three of them?
Hey, there's more. There was more, I know. But you know, when you want to like go be with your family, it's like, what, another interview? Like, really? I was like, who told these people?
Well, you're a hot property at that point.
Oh, stop it.
It was quite beautiful. And it's really weird because I look around and there's like people with like signs going, yeah, our world champion is back home and stuff like that. I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is weird. Because I'm like, I've never been that kind of girl or had that kind of stuff. And it was kind of the signs. And I'm like, I mean, that's nice. But it's just a bit, but not what I was used to. I never forget my son's Facebook post after I won that world title. That was so funny because he's just this, honest to who? My mum's a world champion. Yeah.
So you are actually enjoying yourself by this stage, right? I mean, you'd achieved something just unprecedented.
Just seeing people that have been a part of my boxing journey there and just being so proud. You know, I didn't want to fuss. I really didn't. But 14 years later, I can look back and say, thank you for those that were there. Even at the time, if I didn't enjoy it as, you know, how it was probably intended.
Mum won her world title. You get that big high. You reach basically what everyone wants when you're a boxer. You want to be the world champion. You become the world champion, then it's like, oh wow, what do I do now?
Because that's all I focused on for how many years? For years and years and years, was winning this title. It's quite emotional, actually. And then I'd achieved it, and I was like, what happens now? And you have to remember, like, I had a lot of role models, coaches and stuff, but I didn't really have that guidance around that sort of thing. So
I guess no one really understood what I was going through. I mean, I had family members saying to me, oh, whatever, she's just making it up. But it was real. And my best friend, Trina and Talia, they knew it was real. They knew that I was experiencing this absolute low. I'd only leave the house to go to work. Monty phoned me up and said, girl, you need to do all your interviews. He goes, I'm sick of them phoning me up and I'm going to have to do all your interviews. And I'm like, no, you're way better than me. You keep doing it.
So why didn't you want to do the interviews? What were the questions you didn't want to answer?
I don't know whether I was afraid of any particular question. It was, I just wanted people to leave me alone. Look, I didn't want to do any interviews. Look, I can't explain why. People were lovely to me. No one was rude.
You just didn't want contact with people, really?
Yeah. It wasn't a healthy place to be in at all, you know. It was the people closest to me who could see that something was really wrong. Like Treens. She was actually really worried.
Well, she didn't want to come to the gym for a while.
But I had to go in the end, because I needed to work.
You needed to work. She just hermited herself away. I remember there was one time when I hadn't heard from her, probably only for about a day, but we usually spoke to or saw each other every day, maybe sometimes twice a day, you know. So I sort of hadn't heard from her, and I rang and she didn't answer, and I was just like, oh, maybe I'll just go over. And so I went over and she answered the door, and she hadn't spoken to anybody. She said, oh, I just didn't feel like speaking to anybody.
I didn't answer my phone either, Trace, because I don't want to do interviews.
Yeah, I know that. I absolutely, I know there was all of that, but it was more concern over, it really worried me. Because I thought that you were going to do something to yourself. I don't know, like, I'd never seen you like that. And as well, it was probably quite a strange thing to see one of my superheroes crash and burn like that, like to be like, oh, sorry. It was horrible to see.
I would go to work during the day and then come straight home, and that was it.
Would you go to a dairy or would you send Talia?
Talia was quite happy to go over to St. Luke's Mall. We only lived across the road from the supermarkets. I really did not want to be in the mall.
You didn't want to be around anyone that may recognise you?
That sounds stupid, eh?
No, I mean, it is what it is.
I'm hardly Michael Jackson. You know what I mean? Like, and here I'm going, oh no, I had one person look at me, like, oh my gosh, like, oh, yeah, clearly I mentally wasn't very sound, all right?
I could see that she was down. I remember thinking, what's the matter, Mum? Like, you've just won your world title, now you won't leave the house. And for me, it wasn't so much, I wasn't worried about her because me and Trina were always there around. But for me at the time, I don't think I was old enough to realise, the high for her was now the worst low she possibly has ever had.
So there I was. I'd won and felt lost. And it wouldn't be till years later that I could actually enjoy my success and be proud of myself.
Would you say it was years?
It was years, yeah.
It wasn't to that extent where you couldn't leave the house anymore, but you still, whenever anyone would talk about it, you'd cry.
And people would find it strange that I didn't want to, can you bring your belt? And I'd be like, what for? That's the belt I won in Germany.
The belt was in the spare room.
Yeah, I just chucked it in there and it stayed in there.
And I'd always be like to Mum, can I have the case?
Because it comes in a pretty cool case. I'm still a bit funny like that.
You are a lot better now.
So I guess over time, the emotional impacts sort of died down. Time helps, I suppose. Time on my own helped me. But sometimes the strangest things cheer you up. Well, when New Idea, the woman's magazine, wanted to do a photo shoot of me and Talia, you know, the new world champion and her daughter. This was in 2010 after I'd won the title. So, you know, sometimes us female boxers don't have the luxury of saying no to that stuff. We get more money with the side hustles than you actually do your real job. And, you know, I actually do enjoy doing some girly girl stuff every now and again. They bought this pink peachy dress in for me to wear. And I looked at the lady and I said, I'm not wearing that. I said, get real. Look at me. You know, I'm a tomboy. And I can wear a dress, but I just was like, not like that. And anyway, she said, no, Daniella, this will look really beautiful on you. And I was just thinking, oh my gosh, this woman has no clue. She has no clue. Anyway, they did my makeup, they did my hair, and I was like, oh, she said, just go and try the dress on. So I tried it on, and then I walked out, and because, you know, in the gym, there's all these big mirrors. The shoot was at the boxing gym in Parnell. And I walked out, I looked in the mirror, and I went, oh, wow, okay, you're a real girl here, you're a woman. And I was like, I even think I thought I look quite beautiful. Not a word I would use to describe me at all. And I was like, okay, this is going to be a bit of fun. And they got me up in the ring in this beautiful dress, and I probably had bare feet because I can't wear heels, I'll fall over. And so I'm up in the ring, and I said to her, oh, I feel really subconscious. And I'll never forget her saying, she goes, just try to relax and, you know, just enjoy the moment. And I said, I know what I'll do.
Most modeling is kind of acting like a hoe, but making it fashion. Hoe, but then make it fashion. Hoe, make it fashion.
I'm Tyra Banks.
So this season on Top Model, it's all about next level fierce. Because we've been fierce for 23 cycles.
Next level now.
Right. And you have to take it up a notch.
Because the modelling show was on TV at the time, and she'd coach the girls how to pose and stuff. I said, I'm Tyra Banks. Now I'm smizing. And oh my gosh, they just all cracked up laughing at me because here I am trying to get into character of this model. And, you know, had a bit of fun with it. They got some pretty good photos, and I was really happy with the shoot. And we had some actually really lovely photos together, Talia and I. That was a great distraction. But with everything going on, I lost my passion for boxing. With everything, really. The realisation of the death of my brother. My family and I, we were fighting again, so there wasn't a lot of communication because it took years for our family to heal from, you know, the passing of my brother. A lot of the guilt that was passed around. Suicide is just a really, really tough journey to navigate for everyone that's left behind. Unfortunately, it took our family 10 years. My sister, actually, we were all at my mum and dad's house, all of us siblings, with mum and dad and most of the grandchildren. And my sister said, look at that. This is the first time in 10 years we've actually all stayed in the same house together or been present together and happy and enjoying one another. So, yeah. And I guess a lot of that time I hardened. I actually stopped loving boxing because boxing, I blamed boxing. It's easier to blame something else than me. You know, I blamed boxing for making me have to go through all of this. And it's not boxing's fault, it's me. I lost the love and the fire and the passion that I had for all those years for the sport. I think I might have actually even started to hate it. But out of duty, I started training for my world title defence that was going to be in South Africa. Because that's the thing about becoming a world champion. The expectation is you defend your title. It was too expensive to defend the title here in New Zealand.
What was that?
Well, it's one thing to bring an opponent from somewhere overseas to fight, but the expectation is that you bring the officials from the USA, because the IBF was based in New York. You're having to pay them. You're having to pay for their accommodation, their flights. The costs are huge.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah. They've since made adjustments, and those aren't the expectations anymore, having more regionally based officials. So in 2011, I went to defend my title in Johannesburg, South Africa. So again, I was heading overseas. And again, Monty couldn't come. And this time, even my father couldn't make it. So I went to defend my world title in Johannesburg, South Africa on my own.
On your own, meaning with no coach, but you brought a friend or someone, right?
Nope, on my own. I mean, who does that, eh? Like, I just would not let my daughter go to Johannesburg by herself.
So, one ticket for you only, literally one person.
Yeah, I'm on my own. I was like, I'm a big girl, I could take care of myself.
It's incredible to think that a fighter would go overseas on their own to defend a world title.
I just still don't think I was mentally in a very good place. And sometimes when you're in that position, you don't make the best decisions. The stupidest, or one of the stupidest decisions I've ever made as a boxer. And I think a lot behind that decision was this newfound disgust in myself, this newfound shame in myself. I think I kind of felt like I deserved to be alone. And Johannesburg is a dangerous place for anyone, let alone a woman on her own. So here I am, I arrive in Johannesburg, and I'm like quite freaked out by this place. Didn't take my phone out of my hotel room. Was told that you'll get killed for it. Got told all these horror stories. It was quite a scary place. And just went over to the local gym and actually made friends with the staff there. Well, I've worked in gyms all my life, so, you know, I don't know whether I was annoying for them, but they gave me access to the scales, to the equipment, to everything. They were actually really cool. And I asked the guy one night if I could weigh myself. I said, because I can't keep any food down. And he goes, yeah. So in the evening when you're weighing your heaviest, I hopped on the scales and I was weighing 64 kilos. I was like, oh my gosh, I need to put weight on. So I tried eating more. I wish I had that problem now. Oh my gosh, I so wish I had that problem now. Anyway, back to this problem. So I started eating so much, trying to put on weight, and it just kept falling off. After I had weighed in, the reporters came and talked to me and they said, Daniella, how do you feel that you will handle the hostile crowds? And I honestly don't know where this came from, but I looked at them all and I said, I am a Māori of Kaikohe. My tupuna, they come with me every time I enter the ring. My tupuna would rip the scalps off their enemies' heads and eat their brains for mana. I said, trust me, I am not afraid of anything. Oh my gosh, I was like, you dramatic girl, where the hell did this come from? And everyone was just like, whoa. But you're not going to ask me any of those stupid questions again. My opponent was Noni Tenge.
Her fight name was She Be Stingin'. Of her 11 fights before yours, 10 had been wins with 1 draw.
Oh, I didn't even know that. First time I've heard of She Be Stingin'. That's a cool name.
It's a great name.
Yeah. What I'd been warned about with South African crowds was true. A stadium full of people screaming for Noni to take my head off. But I can't blame them for what happened.
Anyway, I get in the ring and I'm boxing. And the only way I can describe it is, it was like fighting on the moon. No disrespect to this girl, but I'm not even sure if she was that good. I was just horrible. Like, terrible. And I think after round 1 or 2, the referee even come over and said to me, Daniella, you've really got to start engaging. You're starting to worry me, or else I'm going to have to stop the fight. And I was like, I have never had this conversation before. Wow, okay. Well, she didn't need to stop the fight because Noni did. My first ever knockout in my entire life. Oh, me getting knocked out.
So what did Noni hit you with?
I have no clue. I'll be very honest. With the altitude, I just never thought it would impact me that much. But it really did. And entering into the ring, I was tiny. I'd lost so much weight, yeah. So what did she hit me with? I don't know, but what she hit me with worked. You know, it worked. And I woke up on the canvas and I was like, I didn't know what had happened. And I got up and I was like, what? Shit. And I looked around and I went, oh, shucks, I must have just got knocked out. And so anyway, I stand up and people are fussing over me and everything, and I'm just like, whatever. I mean, up until this point, I'd never even had an 8 count put on me throughout my whole fight career. So this was a very foreign territory for me. And then I thought, oh no, my kids are going to be so worried about me. Straight away, I'm worried about my children. Because I thought, this is going to get back. And I know they're just going to be so worried.
Yeah, I got really upset. I cried when she told me that she had been knocked out, just because we knew she was there by herself, and I'm thinking, how the heck has she been knocked out? Now she has to come, all that way. Is she going to be okay? Can she fly home? I didn't really know what was going on. So yeah, for me, I was actually just really scared.
Noni Tengu became the new IBF welterweight world champion. Now I had a 15-hour flight home on my own.
I mean, what is going through your mind on that plane?
I just wanted to get home to my children. I just wanted to reassure them that I was okay. I knew Treens would be worried about me, and I just wanted them to know that I'm safe, not to worry. Also, you have to remember that coming back, we had to end up staying in Australia the night.
First tonight, travellers are stranded at some of the country's largest airports as thick ash from a Chilean volcano grounds flights.
We couldn't go directly back to New Zealand. Yeah, so it took even longer to get home, which was, that was quite frustrating. I do remember sitting on the plane thinking, your number one role on this earth is you're a mother. If you are not alive for your children, you're of no use to them. So straight away I was like, no, I need to rest my brain. I need to look after myself. I hadn't been looking after myself. I was in a real bad place. And it was time to do something about it. Yeah.
So this really did impact you?
I don't think I ever recovered from it, to be honest. I realised that day I'm no longer invincible. That's a scary thing for a fighter to have to realise. I thought I was invincible, and then I'm like, oh, actually, I'm not. But I didn't come home all sad and depressed, Talia?
No, you're like, oh, well, I'm going to do body sculpting now. And we were all like, what?
I was in a much better place, having lost a world title, than when I'd won it. What I needed next was a new challenge. You know what the hardest thing was? Walking in high heel shoes and posing. I found it in the strangest of places. Run up the stairs. Said, I'm ready now. And I just take all my clothes off. I'm butt naked. Of course I cover myself. I'm not entirely ridiculous. And I guess you just have to wait for the next episode to hear all about it.
Learn the naked truth next time.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for listening to Uncut, Diamond Daniella, hosted by and all about Daniella Smith. I particularly want to thank Radio Wātea, Whakata Māori, Sky TV and Ngā Taonga for sharing audio of Daniella and her fights, which helped bring her journey alive. Thank you. This podcast was written and produced by me, Dane Giroux, with help from RNZ producers Phil Vine and Liz Garton. Tim Watkin is RNZ's executive editor of audio, and Brianna Uritich is the production coordinator. Graphics were designed by Eugenia Nagonaya, and special thanks go to Ben Pierce, Jeremy Ansell, and all RNZ's wonderful audio engineers who helped get this podcast out to you. The editor was Lucas Giroux, with original music by Sam Allen. If you enjoyed this podcast, share it far and wide and recommend it to all your friends. Ka kite.